Hello and welcome to Manatee Sports Raw Review. Now this is the 12/22 Raw episode, but it was actually recorded on December 19th. And why am I bringing that up is because I was actually there. So I was there live for this week's Raw and SmackDown. And you guys might have seen me post on social media some not spoilers, but little hints of the show. So now I'm going to be talking about my experience at Raw and the overall show. So let's get started right into this. Now the first thing they showed on the big screen and on TV was Paul Heyman walking in with Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed, and then Paul Heyman saying, "You boys go get warm, I got this." And Austin Theory, kind of an interesting interaction with Paul Heyman. Austin Theory's like, I hid my, I wanted my actions to show before I showed my face, and I was like too reserved, and I got injured, and now I see that the Vision, when they want something, they just take it, and that's what I'm gonna do, and I'd love to take an opportunity tonight to help the Vision. And Paul Heyman the entire time is just like, really? Oh, really? Really? This was just it didn't feel like Austin Theory is really in the Vision. It feels like Paul Heyman maybe sus that something is up, and I agree with Paul Heyman. I do not think Austin Theory is going to be joining the Vision forever. I do think Austin Theory is going to be acting like he's part of the Vision, but I definitely think he's a mole for Seth Rollins, especially because we'll talk about it later, but he uses a stomp as his finisher. So I really feel like he's a rat for Seth Rollins. But let's go to the first match of the night, Rhea Ripley versus Asuka. Seeing this match in person was very fun. It was it's two legends of women's wrestling and just wrestling altogether. So being there for a Rhea entrance was pretty cool. Plus getting to see the Kyrie shenanigans, and then Io runs down halfway through the match and takes a bullet for Rhea again, and actually ends up costing Rhea the match with a roll up. So Asuka beats Rhea Ripley for the first time. So that was something that I didn't hear because there's no commentary. But Asuka beats Rhea for the first time, so that was pretty cool. But I didn't know that at the time. But big win for Asuka. They kind of just skedaddle up the ramp after, and their match is 2 weeks. 2 weeks from now, and I really feel like Rhea and Io are going to be taking those tag titles. But let's go backstage to the Vision, and Paul Heyman tells Bronson Reed that his partner will be Austin Theory tonight against CM Punk and Rey Mysterio. So Paul Heyman chooses Austin Theory, but then he gives them a warning, and he's kind of like, well, this is kind of like his audition to the Vision, so if he messes something up, take him out, basically. And Bron Breakker kind of like reassures Bronson Reed. He's like, dude, I got you. I'm here for you. I'm not here for Austin Theory. And then the man is back in what she calls miserable Michigan. It's not that bad. I mean, it's pretty bad, but it's not horrible. And then she also says that she hasn't seen any rapids and that she's in a not-so-grand city. Loud boos. The crowd for the show really did translate to the show, I think. We, personally, I didn't think that we were too loud, but I thought we were loud enough to get on TV, and we definitely were. I definitely think that certain things were piped in, because I remember the crowd not popping at all for that, but, it was interesting to see the difference, obviously. But Becky Lynch, she cuts a promo saying that there's a crooked ref, and she's still the IC champion, and basically the same stuff that she says every week, and it's not just me saying it, everybody's saying it, that she's kind of getting repetitive. But she gets interrupted by Maxine Dupree, the real women's Intercontinental Champion, and she basically says, like, I'm going to beat you again. I've beaten you not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 times now. And, when I look at you, all I see is somebody who looks like her best years are behind her. And Becky just snaps after that. She starts beating down Maxine, holds up the belt, but then she goes back for more, and Maxine reverses it into an ankle lock. She drops down with it, and Becky Lynch taps out. So on January 5th, it will be Maxine Dupree versus Becky Lynch for the Women's Intercontinental Championship, and that will be the return of AJ Lee. I'm calling it now. That's going to happen on that show. But let's go backstage to Stephanie Vaquer, and Adam Pearce is like, hey, how are we going to settle this? How are we going to settle this whole Nikki Bella, Raquel Rodriguez thing? And Stephanie's like, just give me both of them. Triple threat. And Adam Pearce uses a little bit of Spanish. He says, en serio? Like, are you serious? And Stephanie's like, of course, So next week, there will be a triple threat match between Stephanie Vaquer, Nikki Bella, and Raquel Rodriguez for the Women's World Championship. Now, when Stephanie Vaquer said triple threat, the crowd cheered very loudly and then booed very loudly when they heard next Monday. Same thing with the AJ Styles and Dragon Lee thing, where they will face the Usos next week. There were loud boos when it was next week, so it's kind of fun because you always see that on the shows, but it's fun to be part of that also. But now, something that was also fun to be part of was Javon Evans versus Rayo Americano. And, seeing Javon Evans in person, he skyrocketed up some of my favorite wrestlers list. He literally flies through the air. That man is indeed bouncy. There was a fun match. Javon Evans did all of his moves, basically. And then he ends up hitting an OG cutter for the win. And I didn't hear this because there's no commentary, obviously, when you're in the arena. But Michael Cole referred to him as a soon-to-be free agent. So I think Javon Evans is going to bring some bounce to Monday Night Raw. So I'm excited for that. Now we go to a promo with Nikki Bella. And this didn't really hit in person for me, and it also really didn't hit when I watched it on TV. I thought it was better on TV than it was in person. But she calls out Michigan, like, what would you know about what a champion looks like? You guys root for the Lions, which was funny. And then she says that, like, the Lions wish that they were as good as the Eagles, which, fair point, the Lions would love to be the Eagles, probably. And then she says, or better yet, Ohio State, which, it kind of dropped a little bit because I know that they're a bigger rival, but, I'd rather be Philly than Ohio State. But anyway, Nikki Bella basically stakes her claim, saying that this is what a champion looks like, and she's going to become champion, which, now that it's a triple threat, the chances of Nikki Bella winning actually go up. Now, I don't think it's going to happen, but keep it in mind that Nikki Bella may be walking away with the title, but man, I hope not. But let's move on to Bayley versus Roxanne Perez, and this was the match. This was a good match. It was pretty good. I liked it better on TV actually than in the arena, but it's just kind of getting repetitive with these teams. But at least we got something different because Raquel Rodriguez accidentally messes with Roxanne Perez. Roxanne Perez has the match won, but Raquel comes out of nowhere and distracts the ref, and this leads to Lyra slapping Bayley, saying, "Where's the Bayley that I need?" Which I didn't see any of this when I was in the arena because it was on the other side. But anyway, Bayley then hits an elbow drop. 1, 2, 3. Bayley gets the win over Roxanne Perez. And even in the clubhouse later, Roxanne, Liv, and Raquel, they're yelling at each other, and Dom and Finn are kind of like, "Ooh, what's going on here?" So is the Judgment Day finally getting to the point of collapse after all of these years of thinking it's going to collapse? I guess we'll see. But we have to go to the man that was the most hated in Grand Rapids, the man who made the goat tap out, the man who has probably the funniest laugh, It's so goofy, but whatever. He walks down, loud boos in the arena, loud boos on TV. It was great. Although when we were all booing Gunther, I did smile quite a bit because I'm like, this dude's like great at his job. But he does say that you shouldn't be blaming him. You should blame out John Cena, the man that tapped out like a little bitch. But CM Punk didn't like that too much. He goes face to face with Gunther, and Gunther leaves. But as he leaves, he goes, "You can't see me." And mocks John Cena right in front of CM Punk. And then Rey Mysterio has a stare down with Gunther. And then as Gunther is leaving, we once again see the AJ Styles stare down. And now we just saw three people who may be retiring in the next few years. And we saw Gunther, who has retired Goldberg and John Cena. And now I wonder, is this the path that Gunther is going down? Man, that would be crazy to retire names this big. But Gunther is amazing. He is so good at just soaking in all the boos, and he's the best heel on Raw for sure. But let's go to the main event. Now, it's funny how the two men in this graphic, Austin Theory isn't even in the graphic, but it is CM Punk and Rey Mysterio versus Bronson Reed and Austin Theory. I didn't even realize Logan Paul was in this graphic, but he was too busy watching his brother get knocked out by Anthony Joshua. Anyway, we go to the match, and it's a fun one, actually. I think Theory looked really good on TV and in person. Ray and Punk, getting to see them live was very cool. Bronson was what Bronson does, but the match ends when Austin Theory stomps Rey Mysterio and pins him 1, 2, 3. Now, this is why I think the Masked Man's been using a stomp. He's joining the Vision, and then he pins Rey Mysterio with a stomp. And he's wearing black and gray gear, very similar to what Seth Rollins wore to SummerSlam one year. I'm not saying it's correlated, but I do like this new look Austin Theory. I think he looked very good. Wish that the crowd reacted a little bit more for him, giving him a chance at least. But Austin Theory pins the legendary Rey Mysterio. Punk runs in right away, but Braun Breaker comes down and spears CM Punk after a little brawl and mocks him going, "Ho, ho, ho, ho," with the go to sleep. It was great. I really enjoyed this quick little finishing segment. And honestly, Raw went by very quick in person and on TV. Pre-taped shows always feel a lot quicker, but this was a cool finishing final segment with Braun Breaker standing over Punk, possibly one more time before they feud, or before they have their match on January 5th. But overall, that is Raw. It was a very fun show in person and on TV. Nothing too important happened, but we got some cool face-offs. We got some cool, maybe, story progression later. But the main question is Austin Theory a member of the Vision? After that audition, I would say yes, but then, for how long will he be a member of the Vision? But for right now, that is it for my Raw review. Make sure that you like, subscribe, check out the TikTok, check out the YouTube Shorts. If you're watching this, you probably already know the spoilers for SmackDown, but if you haven't, SmackDown is going to be better than this Raw, and that's probably the first time that you can say that in a while. But for right now, that's it.